Tonight, 6:10 BBC One.
Revision your downfall? Get Bitesize Interactive TV. Press the red button on your remote to make ho-hum subjects a whole lot tastier. BBC Bitesize Interactive TV makes revision easier to digest.
BBC One brings the good old times back to life, when romance was in the air.
We all have our feelings, Phyllis.
Well, you keep yours well hidden.
When people spoke their mind.
You can't turn your back without someone else being fiddled around with.
Linda, would you fetch my dad's soapbox, please? I think he's going to need it.
And a friendly face was never far away.
None of us are perfect, and none of us should have to be.
Get together with old friends. Born and Bred, tonight at 8 on BBC One.
Now on BBC One, the early evening news with Darren Jordan.
The American running Baghdad's being replaced after only 3 weeks in charge. Barbara Bodine leaves as the city struggles to cope with the aftermath of war. Britain's top agent inside the IRA has had his cover blown. And the last day of the Premiership. Is it West Ham or Bolton that go down? Good evening. The American in charge of running Baghdad has left her job after less than a month. Barbara Bodine was effectively the mayor of the Iraqi capital. But since US troops took control, vital services haven't been restored quickly enough, and there's been intense criticism of America's failure to establish order. The man in overall control of Iraq, Jay Garner, is also likely to pull out within the next fortnight. From Baghdad, Stephen Saka reports.
This is Health Street in northwest Baghdad. It is awash with raw sewage. The local sewage pumping station has no electricity. Their backup generators packed up a week ago. Dozens of homes were flooded with effluent which came up through the toilets and drains. We've all had diarrhea, Mohammed Abdul Sahab told me. We take medicine, but soon the diarrhea comes back. A sewage lake outside the pumping station. The municipal workers here haven't been paid for 3 months. The Americans say they'll sort it out, but it'll take time.
It's not good, clearly not. You can see the commitment of these people standing here and doing their work still.
But nobody's paying them. The Americans
paying them. Yeah, so it's we must break this cycle very, very soon.
Baghdad is a broken, filthy city. That's the result of decades of neglect, more than the recent war. But the Americans and the British are now the occupying power here. They have a responsibility to make life tolerable for the people who live here. And for the moment, they seem overwhelmed by the enormity of that task. One of Saddam's Baghdad palaces, now the nerve center of the reconstruction effort. This American, Barbara Bodine, was de facto mayor of the Iraqi capital, till today, that is, when she was recalled to Washington amid rumors of official dissatisfaction.
The team continues to build. Obviously, you're going to have changes in the team, but the focus of the team is very much on the Iraqi people and assisting them getting what they need.
But Baghdad can still be a dangerous place. The bombed-out telephone exchange was on fire again today, looters scavenging ever more desperately. The troops are doing their best, but it's repair teams that are needed if only security can be maintained. Stephen Saka, BBC News, Baghdad.
Well, let's go straight to Washington and talk to our correspondent there, Tom Carver. Tom, how embarrassing is this for the administration?
Well, they're basically starting all over again, really. In the next few weeks, you're going to see a lot of people like Barbara Bodine, who are put in to run Iraq at the beginning, quietly withdrawn back to Washington, including the man in charge of the whole thing. Retired General Jay Garner is on his way out in the next fortnight. In fairness to the White House, I think it should be said there was always going to be a time when they would have to transition from a mainly military operation to a more civilian one. But the abruptness of this, I mean, Barbara Bodine only found out by a phone call on a phone she had literally just installed in her office. And the fact that it's happened only a month after the end of the war is really an acknowledgement by the White House that this team haven't been very successful at putting Iraq back on its feet.
It all seems like a bit of a mess there, Tom, so what can the Americans do to sort it out?
Well, you're going to see a whole new team coming in, led by a man called Paul Bremer. He is in the Middle East at the moment, and he'll be in Baghdad at the end of the week. He is a very experienced diplomat, not a retired general, and that is a sign that basically what America now needs is someone who can liaise with the international community, who can liaise with international aid agencies and the UN, and an acknowledgement that they need the help of the rest of the world and that they can't do it on their own.
All right, Tom Carver in Washington, thank you. A man said to be Britain's most valued spy inside the IRA has had his cover blown. Codenamed Steak Knife, the man's name has appeared in a number of newspapers and internet sites. The Northern Ireland office says it won't comment on the reports. From Belfast, here's Dennis Murray.
The papers in Scotland, England and Ireland say Steak Knife from Belfast was warned about his safety within the last few days as it became clear he would be named both in papers and on websites. So who is Steak Knife? Well, he's said to have been at the top of the IRA for several decades and was involved in murders himself, but that the security services believed he saved many more lives. Indeed, he was said to be regarded by military intelligence as the jewel in the crown of their network of agents. Why's he been named? Now, Sir John Stevens, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, revealed last month that a team of his officers planned to interview Steak Knife as part of their ongoing investigation into collusion between the security forces and loyalist paramilitary groups. Why is he important? Well, one allegation has been that loyalists were steered by a branch of army intelligence at the heart of the Stevens inquiry to murder other Catholics in order to protect Steak Knife from such an assassination. It's already clear that some elements of the intelligence services helped loyalists commit murder. Now it seems they also tolerated or even connived in IRA murder in order to protect Steak Knife. Long dubbed the Dirty War, the question will now be asked, just how dirty did the tactics of the security services get? Dennis Murray, BBC News, Belfast.
Crucial talks to restart the peace process have taken place in the Middle East. America's Secretary of State, Colin Powell, has been meeting Israeli and Palestinian leaders to seek backing for an international peace plan known as the Roadmap. It calls for concessions from both sides. Israel must ease restrictions on Palestinians and dismantle some Jewish settlements. The Palestinians must stop attacks on Israelis and crack down on militants. The goal is a general peace settlement and a Palestinian state by 2005. Well, our correspondent, Jeremy Cook, is in Jerusalem. Jeremy, are the two sides ready to give this plan a chance, do you think?
Well, you know, Darren, Colin Powell is in the Holy Land to tell both sides that there is now an historic opportunity to reach a negotiated settlement. Today, at least, both sides are actually saying that they agree with him. But words are one thing, and what Colin Powell really wants to see is progress on the ground. He says he wants to see it now. The Americans swept into the West Bank, ready to do business with the Palestinians for the first time in a year. Colin Powell refuses to meet Yasser Arafat, but the Americans are delighted with the appointment of a new Palestinian Prime Minister. It's now Abu Mazen who gets to shake hands with the world's most powerful diplomat and accept $50 million in aid. Still, Mr. Powell's message was uncompromising. Palestinian terror must end.
I have urged you to move quickly and decisively to dismantle the terrorist infrastructure which has destroyed lives and aspirations. I have underscored to Prime Minister Sharon and his government the need for Israel to do its part in improving the daily lives of Palestinians.
Despite the smiles, there are big problems. So far, the Israeli leader has not accepted the so-called roadmap or its demand to stop building Jewish settlements in the Palestinian territories, at least until the violence stops. In downtown Jerusalem, they're not getting overexcited. Israelis may be weary of conflict, but they're not convinced that the roadmap can lead anywhere.
I see what's going on in the last few months, years, and I don't think it's going to change now.
Today, Israel released dozens of Palestinian prisoners, a move timed to show the world they can compromise. But it would take gestures on a grander scale to convince Palestinians there's a real chance for peace. We're fed up of talking, he says. Now we want something concrete. There have been agreements before, but the Israelis haven't changed anything. On a day when an Israeli was shot dead in the West Bank, the American message to the Palestinians is clear. If they don't stop the violence, their dreams of statehood cannot be realized. The big test for the Palestinians then is whether they can deliver on their promise to crack down on the likes of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. For the Israelis, the immediate challenge is perhaps even more basic. Can they demonstrate that they are actually committed to this American-led peace initiative? Darren.
Jeremy, thank you. Water companies could soon be made to put fluoride in all our drinking water. The government wants to provide better protection against tooth decay for young children, particularly in poorer areas. Daniel Bircher reports.
Many children get the fluoride they need to keep their teeth healthy through brushing, but there are concerns that for some, poor dental hygiene could leave them vulnerable. The alternative is more fluoride in our tap water, something the dental profession has wanted for years.
Dentists say children living in areas without fluoridated water are twice as likely to end up here with more cavities and other dental problems.
Those who provide us with water could soon be forced to add fluoride if health officials think it's needed. That will require a change of law, but the government seems keen to support it.
At the moment, only 10% of our drinking supplies have fluoride added. The choice is up to individual water companies. But under these proposals, that responsibility would be passed on to health authorities.
There have long been concerns that fluoride could have a range of side effects, but the government says there's no evidence, and dentists believe the benefits of fluoride in tap water are clear.
Young children in poorer areas suffer a large amount of teeth decay at very young ages, and it's the one thing that you could do to prevent young children suffering tooth decay before the age of 5.
Those opposed to the plan insist fluoride in toothpaste is still the best way to protect children. That way parents at least have a choice. If it's added to water supplies, they don't.
But the Department of Health says communities will have a say. Fluoridation won't happen unless there's widespread local support. Daniel Bircher, BBC News.
The former Conservative Cabinet Minister David Miller has revealed that he's left the Tory party after more than 20 years of membership. Mr Miller told the BBC the party had lost direction under the leadership of Ian Duncan Smith and that he'd allowed his membership to lapse. A Royal Protection Officer has been taken off firearms duty after accidentally firing a shot inside the Duke of York's home in Berkshire. Prince Andrew was in another room at Sunninghill Park at the time and no one was injured. Scotland Yard has begun an inquiry. Now, you may recall the story of Jonathan Sims, who's suffering from CJD, the human form of mad cow disease. His family won the right for him to receive pioneering new treatment, and it now seems that he is making progress. For tonight's special report, Karen Allen on one family's determination never to give up on their son.
18 months ago, Jonathan Sims was an athletic student with a bright future ahead of him. Now he has variant CJD, a disease which no one has survived. But these pictures capture the start of an extraordinary journey. Since January, Jonathan's been on experimental treatment with a drug that's injected into his brain. The hope is that it might halt the devastating effects of VCJD, but many doctors had feared it would kill him. So I asked his father what was going through his mind when it began.
A lot of apprehension, because this had never been done before. And we were about to take the leap of faith.
Come on. With his mother constantly at his side, Jonathan's been given the drug pentazan polysulfate, or PPS, opposed by many doctors because it's never before been used on humans. This case is so controversial that those treating him can't be identified. Now back at home, Jonathan's receiving the drug constantly. It's still too soon to say if it's made any difference at all to his brain, but his parents have observed small changes.
We've heard single words again, but it's not something that I want to claim that PPS is a total success. It's a suggestion that it is working.
Just sitting up would have been impossible for Jonathan 6 months ago. There's not yet the scientific proof that the drug's effective, but it offers a glimmer of hope to others with this terrible disease. Karen Allen, BBC News.
And you can see more on Jonathan's progress in Real Story tomorrow evening at 7:30 on BBC One. Now with news on the last day of the Premiership and the rest of the sport, here's Mary Rhodes. Mary.
Thanks very much, Darren. Good evening to you. West Ham United have been relegated from the Barclaycard Premiership and Bolton stay up. West Ham drew 2-2 with Birmingham City at St Andrews, while Bolton beat Middlesbrough 2-1 at home. Our sports correspondent Adam Parsons is in Birmingham. Adam.
Yes, a day of fluctuating fortune and plenty of emotion here. Fans now beginning to drift away, but West Ham came here to St Andrews hoping for something of a miracle, but in the end, under grey skies, their luck has run out.
West Ham!
Travelling in hope, if not expectation, West Ham supporters arrived in Birmingham clinging onto their tickets and dreaming of a remarkable finale to a turbulent season. Trevor Brooking is standing in as manager, while Glenn Roeder awaits brain surgery. For his players, a simple equation: they had to do better than Bolton. West Ham could have had the ideal start. Jermaine Defoe threw on goal, but he dithered when he should have been decisive. And the Hammers Blues could have got worse. Jeff Horsfield's header brilliantly saved by David James. But then the breakthrough from West Ham's Les Ferdinand, a vintage goal from a veteran striker. Birmingham levelled though, Jeff Horsfield's shot looping in, and West Ham in trouble. And shortly in despair, Stern John's wonderful finish seemed to seal their fate. But a header from Paolo Di Canio offered some late hope. If Bolton had lost, the Hammers would have survived. Bolton knew their destiny was in their own hands, and they looked in confident mood from the start. What they needed was a goal to calm the nerves, and they got it in grand style from Per Fransen. JJ Okocha is not one to be outdone when it comes to the spectacular, though, and this made it 2-0. Wanderers wobbled, though, as Middlesbrough struck former Bolton striker Michael Ricketts, making it 2-1. But Middlesbrough's charge faltered as they lost Frank Cadreau to a red card, and Bolton hung on. For them, a place in the Premiership next season. West Ham were plucky, but they're relegated. So relegation could cost West Ham 10 or 20 million pounds. What does that mean? Well, I should think that some of the star players they brought here will have to be sold. They'll be at other clubs before next season starts. Mary.
OK, Adam, thanks very much. Chelsea have qualified for a place in next year's Champions League at the expense of Liverpool, who will have to make do with competing in the UEFA Cup. Despite taking the lead, Liverpool lost the game 2-1. Jesper Gronkier scored Chelsea's second, to give the club a chance of a much-needed financial boost that they could receive from next season's lucrative European competition. Rangers are back at the top of the Bank of Scotland Premier League with 2 games remaining. They beat Kilmarnock 4-0 with the help of 2 goals from Dutchman Michael Moles. Rangers now lead Celtic only by goal difference. And away from football, England's Paul Casey has won the Benson and Hedges International at the Belfry. Casey shot a final round 71 in blustery conditions to leave him on 11 under par, 4 clear of Ireland's Porrick Harrington. Well, that's all your sport for now. I'll be back with a lot more at 10. Darren.
Mary, thank you. Well, that's it for now. There are news updates throughout the evening over on BBC News 24, and there's more here on BBC One at 10 o'clock. But from me, goodbye.
Hello, well, it's been a showery weekend for many of us, and we've still got plenty of showers at the moment across Scotland, Northern Ireland, through parts of England, and we've got some thicker cloud and some rain across the southeast as well. That's tied in with an area of low pressure, and that will be around across the southeast for a time this evening and overnight before eventually clearing away. The showers, well, we're going to see plenty of those for the first part of the night, heading their way particularly across Scotland. So I think by the end of the night it should become a little bit drier with just 1 or 2 showers in the west. We will also see more rain coming into southwest England. So a fairly unsettled night, some clear spells, and I think where it is clearer we could see temperatures down to around 3 to 5 degrees, giving a touch of ground frost. Into Monday morning then, we're going to start off with some cloud and rain across the southwest, and that looks as though it's going to head its way eastwards into the southeast of England for the afternoon, and by that time it will be quite heavy. For the rest of the United Kingdom though, it's a showery day once again. Heavy and thundery those showers, particularly in the north and the west. It's going to feel a little bit cooler as well, temperature around 12 to 15 degrees, but the breeze and the heavy showers making it feel considerably cooler than that would indicate. Into Tuesday it gets even windier, particularly in the northwest, and still an abundance of showers. But by Wednesday, a little area of high pressure is going to move its way in, and that will keep these weather fronts at bay. So Wednesday it will get drier in the west, that drier weather pushing further eastwards into Thursday before the weather fronts try and get in later on in the week and into the weekend. That's it. Bye-bye.
This is BBC One for the Midlands.
Good evening, I'm Sameena Ali Khan. Thousands of people living in the Black Country were evacuated from their homes last night when arsonists set fire to a 2-ton propane gas cylinder. Angry residents say the fire at a derelict factory was an incident waiting to happen. Jenny McCudden reports.
After 12 hours, firefighters finally got the blaze under control. This latest arson attack in the Black Country happened here at a factory in Tipton. Police say if the cylinders of propane gas exploded, hundreds could have lost their lives.
If these things had gone off with any train going past being at risk, the housing estate the other side being at risk, and certainly this housing estate at the back, because apparently the expansion rate for this gas is something like 25,000 to 1.
Once the emergency services were alerted, the area was evacuated. Extra police officers were drafted in for the phased evacuation, and in excess of 1,000 people were brought to a local hotel and community centre. It was a sleepless night for residents who are still in shock.
It's disgusting, really is disgusting. I had to catch them and string them alive.
It was frightening, you know, when they told us. I mean, when I'm 83, I thought, oh, good God.
Many believe it was an incident just waiting to happen.
Nobody does nothing.
No, nothing's done.
Nothing. That took the park off them, that took the baths off them. And it's come to the stage where now we could have lost our lives.
Yeah, somebody could have got killed last night.
West Midlands Police believe local youths are responsible and say they are following a definite lead. Jenny McCudden, BBC Midlands Today in Tipton.
The Foreign Office have confirmed that police in India are investigating the murder of a pensioner from Wolverhampton. Santokh Singh Durha, who was 71, was killed by a man wielding a ceremonial sword while he was on holiday in his native village in the Punjab last week. A month after the end of the war in Iraq, there's no sign of any pickup in the number of overseas tourists visiting our big attractions. Latest figures reported in today's politics show on BBC One show advance bookings for the peak season are well down on last year, as Patrick Burns reports from Stratford-upon-Avon.
Richard Workman has owned Stratford's Ravenhurst guest house for 17 years. Business has never been worse.
Generally, Stratford, as I say, it's all about tourism. We haven't diversified in any other direction. Yes, it could become serious.
So you're saying really that you can see some people going out of business?
Yes, I can. If it continues like it is, I can.
Those foreign visitors who have braved the international situation, the SARS virus and general economic gloom, have no regrets.
Why let terrorism and other things rule your life?
I don't see any reason why you shouldn't want to travel here.
Come to England!
But the latest figures for advanced bookings into the coming peak season are around 20% down, even on last year, which had itself been damaged by the after effects of September the 11th.
We're joining in campaigns to kickstart marketing in America and the Japanese markets to bring those visitors back. There's still a lot of goodwill in those markets towards England.
And with this summer's peak season almost upon us, a sudden surge of international bookings can't come soon enough. Patrick Burns, BBC Midlands Today, Stratford-upon-Avon.
Football, and on the last day of the Premiership season, Birmingham City helped send West Ham down with a 2-2 draw. Aston Villa lost 3-1 to Leeds, and West Bromwich Albion, who were of course already relegated, drew 2-2 with Newcastle. The weather, this evening any remaining showers will die out to leave a dry, clear night. Minimum temperatures at 5 degrees. Tomorrow it will be a mixture of sunny spells and showers, maximum temperatures 14 degrees. Nick Owen and Suzanne Verdi will be here at 6:30. That's tomorrow evening with Midlands Today on BBC One. That's it from the weekend team, though. Do join us for more news and sport. That's in breakfast with me in the morning. For now, though, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
And the latest from here is
High pressure
dominating, but there isn't a cloud any minute now.
To a thrilling finale.
Gorgeous day to be outdoors. This weather is going to stay with us until the end of the week.
We try to be everywhere in the Midlands.
And we make sure we get there, no matter what it takes.
Thanks
also making us the #1 news programme.
So each weekday, 6:30, make a date with Midlands Today.
My name's Tracy. This is my story. Left school with no qualifications. Didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. That was 10 years ago. I'm now a football coach. I'm currently working with the school to try and make things happen. Here should be our sports field. It was written off. Now look at me. I found my voice and I like it.
Hear stories like these on BBC Local Radio. Voices starts Monday from 8 a.m.
BBC One brings the good old times back to life, when romance was in the air.
We all have our feelings, Phyllis. Well, you keep yours well hidden.
When people spoke their minds.
You can't turn your back without someone else being fiddled around with.
Linda, would you fetch my dad's soapbox, please? I think he's going to need it.
And a friendly face was never far away.
None of us are perfect, and none of us should have to be.
Get together with old friends. Born and Bred, tonight at 8 on BBC One.
Now on BBC One, Songs of Praise.
The rain, it raineth on the just, and also on the unjust fella, but chiefly on the just, because the unjust steals the just's umbrella. But that's life, isn't it? The world is not fair, and in this Songs of Praise, we'll be meeting people who strive for, or who have been on the receiving end of justice.
Former Cabinet Minister Jonathan Aitken talks about being convicted for perverting the course of justice. Following the death of her son in gang warfare, Patsy Mackay is now working for justice in the community. And actress Claire Goose describes the trip which spurred her into joining the campaign for global justice.
Historically, the idea of the king or the queen as the fount of justice, appointed by God to decide what is just, is enshrined in the English judicial system. With it comes a sense of sitting at the feet of God, the supreme dispenser of justice, impartial, wise and fair, a judge whose aim is ultimately not to condemn, but to save.